The spotlight didn't shake, it never did. Not when Sammy Davis Jr. was underneath it. The Chespeare nightclub in Chicago, November 1957. 2,000 people pressed shoulder to shoulder in the smoke-thick dark, waiting for the man who could tap dance faster than a hummingbird's wings, who could sing like Sinatra and move like a ghost. Sammy was halfway through the birth of the blues when he saw him. Front row, center table, Tony Accardo. The man didn't applaud, didn't smile, didn't move, just sat there, thick hands folded on the white tablecloth, eyes like two black stones pulled from the bottom of Lake Michigan. Behind him, 3 men in dark suits. No expressions, no drinks, just muscle. Sammy kept singing. His voice didn't crack, his feet didn't miss a step. But inside, something cold slithered down his spine. Because in Chicago in 1957, when Tony Accardo showed up to your show uninvited, it wasn't because he liked your voice, it was because he wanted something. Or because you'd done something. And Sammy Davis Jr., the greatest entertainer alive, the man who could do no wrong on stage, had just made the worst mistake of his life off it. To understand what happened that night, you have to understand who Tony Accardo was. Not a movie gangster. Not a character. A ghost in a tailored suit. The boss of the Chicago outfit. The man who ran the city from the shadows. He didn't do interviews. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. When Tony Accardo wanted something done, people just did it. Or they disappeared. They called him Joe Batters on the streets. A nickname earned in the 1920s when he used a baseball bat to send messages that didn't require words. But by 1957, Accardo had evolved. He wore $2,000 suits. He lived in a mansion in River Forest. He had judges on payroll and senators in his pocket. He didn't swing bats anymore, he made phone calls. And people died quietly. The Chicago outfit controlled everything. The clubs, the casinos, the unions, the politicians. If you performed in Chicago, you performed because the outfit allowed it. If you made money in Chicago, you paid tribute. That was the rule. Everyone knew it. And here he was, sitting in the front row of Sammy's show. Watching. Waiting. Sammy finished the song. The crowd erupted. He bowed, flashed that $1 million grin, wiped his face with a towel. But his eyes kept drifting back to Accardo. The mobster hadn't moved, hadn't blinked. Then, as Sammy introduced the next number, one of Accardo's men stood up. Walked to the edge of the stage, leaned in close. Mr. Accardo would like a word. After the show. Private. Sammy's smile stayed frozen. His heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape. "Tell Mr. Accardo I'm honored," Sammy said smoothly. "I'll be right there." The man didn't respond. Just turned and walked back to the table. Sammy finished the show on autopilot. Every song, every joke, every move. But his mind was somewhere else. Somewhere dark. Because he knew exactly why Tony Accardo was here. Kim Novak. But nobody knew about Kim. Not the public. Not the press. Not even Frank. Sammy had been seeing her for months. Secret dinners. Hidden hotel rooms. Phone calls at 3 a.m. Kim Novak, the blonde goddess of Hollywood, the studio's golden girl, and Sammy Davis Jr., the black entertainer who'd clawed his way out of vaudeville poverty. It was 1957. Interracial relationships weren't just frowned upon, they were dangerous. Careers could end. Lives could end. Columbia Pictures had Kim under contract. They'd invested millions in her image. White. Pure. Untouchable. America's sweetheart. And now, she was dating Sammy Davis Jr. They'd met at a party in Los Angeles. Some producer's house in the hills. Sammy was performing. Kim was there with her studio handlers, being paraded around like a prize doll. But when Sammy sang "What Kind of Fool Am I?", she stopped pretending to care about the conversations around her. She just watched him. After the show, she found him. "You're remarkable," she said. Sammy, who'd faced down racist crowds, who'd performed with one eye after losing the other in a car crash, who'd been told his whole life he wasn't good enough, looked at Kim Novak and saw something he'd never seen before. Genuine interest. Not pity. Not curiosity. Interest. "You're not so bad yourself," he said. They started talking, then they started meeting. Coffee shops where nobody recognized them. Drives up the coast at midnight. Long conversations about loneliness, about living in a world that wanted them to be something they weren't. Kim told him about the studio controlling every aspect of her life. What she wore. Who she dated. What she said in public. She was a prisoner in a golden cage. Sammy told her about being the only black man in rooms full of white faces. About hotels that wouldn't let him stay in the rooms he'd just performed in. About restaurants that made him use the back entrance. They understood each other. And then they fell in love. They tried to be careful. But in Hollywood there are no secrets. Someone always sees. Someone always talks. And word travels fast when there's money involved. Someone had talked. Someone always did. And word had reached Chicago. Word had reached the men who had money in those studios. The men who didn't ask twice. Columbia Pictures was hemorrhaging cash. They needed Kim Novak to be perfect. They needed her next picture to be a hit. They couldn't afford a scandal. And a romance with Sammy Davis Jr.? That wasn't a scandal. That was a nuclear bomb. So they made a call. To a man who solved problems. To Tony Accardo. After the show, Sammy walked into the back office of the Chez Perret. Small room. One desk. One lamp. Tony Accardo sat behind the desk like he owned it. Because he did. He owned the whole building. He owned half of Chicago. Sammy stepped inside. The door closed behind him. Two of Accardo's men stood on either side. Silent. Sammy's mouth was dry. Accardo didn't stand. Didn't offer a handshake. "Sit down, Sammy." Sammy sat. For a long moment, Accardo just looked at him. Not angry. Not threatening. Just looking. Like a man studying an insect under glass. "You put on a hell of a show," Accardo finally said. "Thank you, Mr. Accardo. You're talented. Real talented. Best I've ever seen." "That's kind of you to say." Accardo leaned forward. His voice dropped. Not louder, quieter, more dangerous. "So why are you trying to destroy yourself?" Sammy's throat tightened. "I don't know what you mean." "Kim Novak." The name hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Sammy didn't respond. Couldn't. Accardo continued, his voice calm, almost fatherly. "You think nobody knows. You think you're being careful. But everybody knows, Sammy. Everybody. The studio knows. The press knows. They're just waiting for the right moment to destroy you both. And there are people, powerful people, who don't like it. People who've invested a lot of money in that girl. People who can't afford to have her image complicated." "I care about her," Sammy said quietly. "I'm sure you do." Accardo's tone didn't change. "But this isn't about what you care about. This is about business, and you're bad for business." "With all due respect, Mr. Accardo, Sammy." Accardo cut him off. Not loud, just firm, like a teacher correcting a child. "I'm going to say this once. You stop seeing her. Today. You don't call her. You don't write her. You don't think about her. You disappear from her life like you were never there." "And if I don't?" The room went colder. Accardo smiled. It was the worst smile Sammy had ever seen. Empty. Mechanical. The smile of a man who'd ordered deaths over breakfast. "Then we'll make sure you can't see her. Or anything else." One of the men behind Sammy moved. Just a step. Just enough. Sammy heard the fabric of the man's jacket shift, heard the weight of something metal underneath. Accardo continued. You've got a father, Sammy. Sammy Sr. Still performs sometimes, doesn't he? Vaudeville circuits, small clubs. He's what, 62 now? And you've got your mother, Elvira, sweet lady. Lives in that little house in Los Angeles. Gardenia Street, right? Sammy's blood turned to ice. Every muscle in his body tensed. They've got nothing to do with this. They've got everything to do with this, Accardo said softly. Because you're a smart guy, Sammy, you know how this works. You don't listen to reason. We have to send a different kind of message. And we'll make sure your family understands why. Sammy's hands clenched into fists under the table. His whole body was shaking. But he kept his face neutral, kept his voice steady. He'd spent his whole life performing. This was just another performance. I understand. Good. Accardo stood. The meeting was over. You're a smart kid, Sammy. Don't throw your life away for something that was never going to work anyway. Go back to Vegas. Do your shows. Make your money. Marry a nice girl. Forget about Kim Novak. Sammy stood, turned toward the door. And Sammy? He stopped. I really do like your act. It would be a shame if something happened to that voice. Or those legs. You understand? Sammy nodded. He walked out of that office and didn't look back. What Sammy Davis Jr. did next shocked everyone who knew him. He didn't run, didn't hide, didn't call Kim crying and begging for forgiveness. He walked out of the Che Parade, got in his car, and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes. He didn't turn on the radio, didn't smoke a cigarette, just sat there in the dark, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Then he drove to the airport. He flew to Las Vegas. And within 48 hours, Sammy Davis Jr. married a black chorus girl named Lorraine White in a ceremony so sudden that even the bride seemed confused. The wedding made headlines. Sammy Davis Jr. weds in surprise ceremony. Photographers caught him leaving the chapel, Lorraine on his arm, both of them smiling. But anyone who looked closely at Sammy's eyes could see the truth. He was a ghost in a tuxedo. The marriage lasted 11 months. Lorraine herself would later admit in interviews that she barely knew Sammy, that the whole thing felt like a performance. Because it was. It was a message, a shield, a piece of theater designed to save lives. To the mob, I'm done, I'm complying, leave my family alone. To Kim, I'm sorry. But I can't destroy us both. To the world, I'm still standing. But standing doesn't mean living. The night after that meeting with Accardo, Sammy sat alone in his suite at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. He'd poured himself a drink. Bourbon. 3 fingers. He stared at it for an hour without taking a sip. Then he picked up the phone. He called Kim. It rang 4 times. Then her voice, soft and sleepy. Sammy? Yeah, baby, it's me. Are you okay? You sound. I can't see you anymore. Silence. Long. Crushing. The kind of silence that swallows worlds. What? Her voice cracked. I can't see you anymore, Kim. I can't call you. I can't be with you. This is the last time we'll ever talk. Sammy, what happened? Did I do something wrong? No. His voice broke. You're perfect. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. But this world, it won't let us be. I don't care what the world thinks. I do, because if I don't walk away, they'll hurt people I love. People who have nothing to do with this, my mother, my father, you. Kim Novak started crying on the other end of the line. This isn't fair. No, it's not. I love you, Sammy. He closed his eyes. Tears ran down his face. I love you too. That's why I have to let you go. And then Kim said something that Sammy Davis Jr. would carry with him for the rest of his life. Then you're braver than any man I've ever known. He wasn't sure he believed her. They said goodbye. Sammy hung up the phone. And then he sat on the edge of that bed in that empty hotel room and cried. Not the public tears, the private kind. The kind that come from a place deeper than fear, deeper than survival. The kind that come from choosing to live without the person who makes you feel alive. Years passed. Sammy became one of the biggest stars in the world. He joined the Rat Pack. He performed for presidents. He converted to Judaism. He married again, this time to Swedish actress May Britt, and faced the same hatred all over again. But he survived. He always survived. Kim Novak went on to make more movies. She remained Hollywood's golden girl for a few more years. But those who knew her said something changed after 1957. The light in her eyes dimmed. She became more distant, more guarded. She never spoke publicly about Sammy, but she never forgot him either. In 1989, Sammy Davis Jr. was dying. Throat cancer. The disease that takes your voice, your breath, your dignity. He was in his home in Beverly Hills, surrounded by photos, awards, memories of a life lived under the hottest lights in the world. His body was skeletal. His voice was gone. He communicated by writing on a pad of paper. A reporter came to interview him, one last time, for a retrospective. The reporter asked the question everyone always asked. "Mr. Davis, do you have any regrets?" Sammy was quiet for a long time. He picked up his pen. He wrote slowly. "I regret that I was born in a time when love was a crime." He never mentioned Kim Novak by name. But everyone who knew, knew. The story of Sammy Davis Jr. and Tony Accardo is not a story about the mob. It's not about fame or fortune or the golden age of entertainment. It's a story about a man who had everything. Talent, charisma, the world at his feet, and still couldn't choose who to love. It's a story about power. Not the kind you earn on stage. The kind that crushes you because you were born the wrong color in the wrong decade in the wrong country. Sammy Davis Jr. survived that night in Chicago. He went on to entertain millions. He made people laugh and cry and forget their troubles. But part of him died in that back office in 1957. The part that believed he could be free. And somewhere, in a quiet house far from the spotlights, Kim Novak lived the rest of her life wondering what might have been. If the world had been kinder. If men like Tony Accardo hadn't existed. If love had been enough. But it wasn't. It never is.